What's good, y'all? Y'all know what's up. It's time for another episode of Trade for Three. Back today with another NFL Weekly Review. This time we're reviewing Week 7 of the 2022 NFL season and giving my predictions for Week 8 as well. The Bills, Rams, Vikings, and Eagles were all on byes this week, so we're getting into it starting with the Thursday night football game, which had the Arizona Cardinals getting a win at home against the New Orleans Saints by a score of 42-34. It was a game that started terribly for Andy Dalton and the Saints. Andy had 3 first-half interceptions. 2 of them was back-to-back pick sixes. So, about as bad as it could get to start a game. Dalton did try to lead his team to a fourth quarter comeback. Despite all that had happened, though he ended up falling short, he finished 30 of 47 on the day for 361 yards, 4 touchdowns, and those 3 first-half interceptions. Rookie Chris Olave notched his second career 100-yard receiving game, finishing with 7 receptions on a career-high 14 targets for 106 yards. 3 of Andy Dalton's 4 touchdowns went to tight ends on the day, with Juwan Johnson being the recipient of 2 of those. The Cardinals scored 25 points in the second quarter, thanks in large part to those 3 interceptions that Andy Dalton threw, and went into halftime up 28-14. There wasn't a touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins in his season debut, but he did finish with 10 receptions on 14 targets for 103 yards. Eno Benjamin, the running back in replacement for the injured James Conner, had 16 total touches for 113 yards and a touchdown. And next, the Cardinals are going to be heading to Minnesota to play the Vikings, who are coming off of a bye. And the Saints are heading back home to host the 2-4 Las Vegas Raiders. My boys, the Ravens, stuck to the trend so far this season and got a win after a loss like they've been doing all season so far, going back and forth. They won against the Cleveland Browns at home by a score of 23-20. They nearly folded again, right when it looked like things was going right, with that Justice Hill fumble in the fourth quarter on a drive that was about to put the nail in the coffin. But ultimately, they won a crucial divisional game, and that's all that matters. Gus Edwards scored 2 touchdowns in his season debut after his ACL tear last season. He had 16 carries for 66 yards, which was significantly more carries than J.K. Dobbins got in his season debut a few weeks ago. It was an unremarkable day passing for Lamar Jackson, who went 9 of 16 for 120 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. First game with no receptions since his rookie year for Mark Andrews, so back in 2018. The Ravens defense, though, did get 5 sacks on the day, punishing Browns quarterback Jacoby Brissett, who finished 22 of 27 for 258 yards, but no touchdowns and no interceptions. Nick Chubb was held in check for some of the first half, came alive a bit in the second, and finished with 16 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. The Browns are going to be hosting the Bengals next with a lot at stake in the AFC North divisional race, and Ravens are traveling to Tampa next on a short week to play the Bucs on Thursday Night Football. Speaking of those Bengals, they played the Falcons at home and won by a score of 35-17. The Bengals came out swinging and built an early multi-score lead before the Falcons started showing signs of life in the second quarter. By that time, it was almost too late. Joe Burrow had a monster day, finishing 34-42, 481 pass yards with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. His second straight game with 300-plus passing yards, 3 touchdowns with no interceptions. That's an impressive stat. He was sacked 3 times, though, which is just always something to watch out for with this supposedly improved offensive line he got. His receivers, Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase, both had 8 receptions for 155 yards and 130 yards, respectively. Boyd caught a touchdown, and Jamar Chase finished with 2. Jamar Chase did go down with a little bit of an injury before halftime, but ended up coming back in the second half, though he didn't record any significant stats. Though ultimately ended up coming out that injury was more significant than it first appeared, and he was placed on injury reserve, expected to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with that hip injury. The Falcons' pass game was virtually non-existent. Outside of a 75-yard catch and score, the Falcons had less than 50 yards receiving total. Marcus Mariota finished 8 of 13 for 124 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and was sacked 3 times. The run game wasn't much better. Leading rusher had 16 carries for 50 yards. That's 3.1 yards per carry, and the longest run of the day of 9 yards. The longest run of the day for the team in general was 11 yards. So, I mean, the numbers don't lie there. The Falcons are going to try to bounce back against an NFC South rival, Panthers, when they travel to Atlanta. And the Bengals are staying in Ohio, but not in Cincinnati for their next game when they face the Browns in Cleveland for an AFC North matchup with a lot of potential late season implications. The Cowboys and Lions mixed it up in Dallas, and the Cowboys came out with the victory 24-6. It was a hideous loss in a rough game for the Lions. The 2 fourth-quarter fumbles for Jared Goff right when you most needed them not to happen. He finished on the day 21 of 26, 228 yards, but no touchdown and 2 interceptions to go with those 2 fumbles. Amon-Ra St. Brown, his top receiver, went down with an injury and didn't return. They had 5 total fumbles, the Lions, and lost 3 of them. So, it was they very much so lost themselves this game. Probably the worst offensive performance of the year for the Lions. Dak Prescott, in his return from injury, went 19 of 25 for 207 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. Tony Pollard, the running back, finished with 3 less carries than Ezekiel Elliott for 26 more yards, but Zeke had 2 more touchdowns to Tony Pollard's 0. The Cowboys have another one at home next as they face the Chicago Bears coming off their big road upset of the New England Patriots. And the Detroit Lions are going to be hosting the Miami Dolphins in their next matchup. In Tennessee, the Titans beat the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 19-10, making it a season sweep for the Titans of the Colts for the 2nd straight season in a row. Bit of a mouthful. Ryan Tannehill finished 13 of 20, 133 yards, but no touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry did the thing he always does, carried the team. 30 carries, 128 rush yards, but no touchdown. The only Titans touchdown was on an Andrew Adams pick 6, believe it or not. So no offensive points for the Tennessee Titans in a game which they won. Matt Ryan was injured during the game, but afterwards it was announced that Sam Ehlinger would be the new starting quarterback for this coming week, and that was determined regardless of the fact that Matt Ryan was injured. Matt Ryan finished what was perhaps his last start in Indianapolis with 33 of 44, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 58 yards on 10 carries for Jonathan Taylor in his return from injury. The Colts' first game with Sam Ehlinger is going to be at home this week against the 3-4 Washington Commanders, and the Titans are headed to Houston to face a 1-win Texans team. The Commanders got the upset over the Packers, 23-21. This was a rough one. I mean, it was on the road, but the Commanders were playing with a backup quarterback thanks to the injury of Carson Wentz, though it is an experienced backup quarterback in Taylor Heineke. But it was really the Packers who lost themselves this game with mistakes and poor play. It was their 3rd straight loss, which is the longest losing streak since 2018 for them. They had no 3rd down conversions in the game, which is the first time for the Packers offense since 1999. Rodgers finished on the day 23 of 35 for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Both of those touchdowns went to Aaron Jones, who didn't run the ball well, went for 8 carries for 23 yards. Allen Lazard went down with a shoulder injury in the game. Aaron Jones finished as the leading receiver in his place, ironically, in every category but yards, where he finished with 2 yards less than Lazard before Lazard's exit. It was the first start of the season for Taylor Heineke. He finished 20 of 33 for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. A late Terry McLaurin touchdown gave the Commanders the lead. He finished on the day 5 receptions on 8 targets for 73 yards and that touchdown. The Commanders head to Indianapolis next to face the Colts and their new starting QB. And the Packers are hoping to end their streak at 3 in a tough Sunday Night Football matchup against the Buffalo Bills, who are coming off of a bye. So tall task there. Speaking of upsets, we got another one right after that, where Tampa Tom and the Buccaneers fell on the road to the Carolina Panthers, a 1-win squad, the second 1-win squad in as many weeks that the Buccaneers have lost to. Again, this one was by a score of 21-3. This was just as surprising as the one last week and the near upset a week before to the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers were expected to start the post-Christian McCaffrey era with a loss here. Like that was almost a foregone conclusion, even with the struggles that the Bucs have been having lately. But no touchdowns by the Buccaneers, all but assured that they wouldn't win. Brady finished on the day 32 of 49, 290 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Leonard Fournette had less than 3 yards per carry, but 2.4. 8 carries for 19 yards. Like P.J. Walker, got his first win in his second start. Went 16 of 22 for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So you can say he outdueled Tom Brady. Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard in their first games in place of Christian McCaffrey. Foreman went 15 carries for 118 yards, and Hubbard went 9 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. The Panthers are traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons next as they look for win number 3 on the year. And the Bucs are hosting a tough Ravens team on a short week as they try to stop their losing streak. The Giants are now 6-1. 6 wins. Only 1 loss for the Giants 7 weeks into the season. They won against the Jaguars in Jacksonville by a score of 23-17. It was a wild one, back and forth, full of some questionable play calls, especially down the stretch by the Jags. The Giants ultimately stopped them on the 1-yard line as time expired in an attempt to win the game, and the Giants got the win instead. Daniel Jones finished on the day 19 of 30, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He also rushed for 107 yards and a touchdown on 11 carries. Saquon Barkley also topped 100 yards, finishing with 110 on 24 carries. Trevor Lawrence on the other side went 22 of 43 for 310 yards, which would be impressive, but no touchdowns, no interceptions. Travis Etienne finished 14 carries for 114 yards and a touchdown, but fumbled and lost it in his first game, having fully taken over the running back 1 role. It was very clear. James Robinson, who was previously the running back 1, finished the game with no carries and 1 target that he wasn't able to turn into a reception. James Robinson, was soon after the game traded to the New York Jets, who were in desperate need of a running back with the loss of their star rookie running back. The Jags are playing their next one in London as the international series continues, and they'll be facing the Denver Broncos. And the Giants are headed to Seattle for a match against the Seahawks. Speaking of those Jets, though, they're now 5-2 after a 16-9 victory over the aforementioned Broncos in Denver. It was another low-scoring affair that involved the Broncos. There was no touchdown scored by either team after the first quarter. No passing touchdown by either team. The Jets also won on a low note because, like I mentioned a little earlier, they lost their star rookie running back, Breece Hall, for the season with an ACL tear. He scored their only touchdown of the game right before being injured there in the first quarter. His quarterback, Zach Wilson, went 16 of 26 for 121 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. And Brett Rypien got the start on the other side in the replacement for Russell Wilson, who was being held out for a week as he tried to recover from his injury. He went 24-46, 225 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception. So I'm sure the Broncos definitely are wanting Russell Wilson back, regardless of how poorly he started off this season. Mike Boone was the only one of the Broncos trio of running backs who finished over 3 yards per carry on the day, and that was thanks to a 15-yard run on one of his 4 carries. Jerry Jeudy finished with 7 receptions on 11 targets for 96 yards. All 3 were team highs. Broncos heading across the pond next, like I mentioned, to play the Jags. And the Jets are hoping to get a win to keep their streak alive with the Pats coming to town next. The Raiders got their second win of the season in a 38-20 victory over the Texans at home. 3 rushing touchdowns by Josh Jacobs helped seal the deal as he ran 20 carries for 143 yards. Derek Carr, his quarterback, went 21 of 27 for the day, only 6 incompletions, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Top receiver Davante Adams led the team in all receiving categories except for touchdowns, with 8 receptions on 9 targets for 95 yards. Second-year quarterback for the Texans, Davis Mills, went 28 of 41 for 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and completed passes to 8 different receivers in the game. Dameon Pierce, the rookie running back, is continuing a great rookie season with 20 carries for 92 yards. The Texans are going to be hosting divisional rival and division-leading Tennessee Titans next. And the Las Vegas Raiders are headed to New Orleans to face another 2-win team in the New Orleans Saints. The Seattle Seahawks got a win over the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that I really wanted to predict for the Seahawks. I mentioned it in my video, in the prediction part of my video last week. But I guess I chickened out. But the Seahawks ultimately got that win, 37-23. Both teams are now 4-3. The Chargers' woes are continuing, but they're starting to become more defensive than offensive as far as their problems. J.C. Jackson, star cornerback who they got in free agency this offseason, is out for the year with a knee injury now. He adds to the long list of long-term injuries that the Chargers have suffered, including Josh Kelly, Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa, etc. Justin Herbert on the day went 33 of 51, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Seems like he's starting to get back into the swing of things from his injury. But Mike Williams, one of his top 2 receivers, went down with an injury of his own, a high ankle sprain late in the game, finishing with 7 receptions on 9 targets for 86 yards and a touchdown. Austin Eckler led the team with 12 receptions on 12 targets for 96 yards and a touchdown of his own receiving, and also ran for 31 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries. Speaking of running backs, it was a career game for rookie running back Kenny Walker, who went 23 carries for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Monster game. Geno Smith, the quarterback, went 20 of 27, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 210 pass yards. Marquise Goodwin had 4 receptions on 5 targets for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. So half of his catches were touchdowns. The Seahawks now face the 6-1 Giants next in a home matchup, and the Chargers are heading into their bye week with some questions that need answers. The Chiefs faced the 49ers in California and got the victory 44-23, spoiling the 49er debut of Christian McCaffrey. The Chiefs are now 5-2 as the 49ers fall to 3-4. Patrick Mahomes went 25 of 34 for 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The hyphenated bros, Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, both went over 100 yards with 124 and 111 yards, respectively. McCole Hardman had a hat trick, 1 receiving touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie running back, was announced to be the running back 1, the starter prior to the game, but he finished on the day with 8 carries for 43 yards, while the guy that he replaced, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, went 6 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown. So ultimately, I think CEH got the better out of that one, and I'm predicting that he'll be the starter next week. I think that might have just been put a little bit of fire under him, get him motivated to play a little better. Jimmy Garoppolo on the other side went 25 of 37, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. George Kittle and Travis Kelce both finished with 6 receptions for 98 yards on National Tight End Day. I don't think you could plan it better than that, though George Kittle had a touchdown and Kelce did not. The Niners are heading down to Los Angeles next to face the Rams, who are coming off their bye week, and the Chiefs are heading into a bye week of their own. The Miami Dolphins got the win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in Sunday Night Football in a game that was honestly a bit closer than expected. They won that one by a score of 16-10, ending their 3-game losing streak in the return of Tua Tagovailoa. The game was closer, like I said, than you would have expected, mainly because of a shutout in the second half. The Pittsburgh Steelers pitched the second half shutout, though they also got one pitched against them as well. Didn't make for the best of football in the second half, honestly. But like I said, there was a shutout there in the second half. Tua finished on the day 21-35, 261 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Only the second time all season that both Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill were both held under 100 yards. That's a impressive stat in my opinion. Only the second time all season that neither one of them had 100 yards. Both of them were held under 100 yards. Waddle had 88 yards and the Cheetah had 72. Raheem Mostert, though, had 109 total yards on 20 total touches. Rookie Kenny Pickett, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, went 32 of 44, 257 yards, but 3 interceptions to go along with 1 touchdown. His running back, Najee Harris, had another performance with under 4 yards per carry with 3.8, 17 carries for 65 yards. The Steelers are heading to Philly next to face an undefeated Eagles team coming off their bye week. They did get that upset of the Buccaneers, but I don't know if they'll be able to pull off this one. And the Dolphins are heading to Detroit to try to get their second straight win against a 1-win Lions squad, who seem to be a bit better than their record, but 1 win is 1 win. The Chicago Bears got a victory over the New England Patriots in Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, and your boy Trey for 3, me, called it. Go back, watch my last video if you don't believe me. I called this one. This was like I didn't hype it up because I wanted to be humble. I called another one as a bold upset of the week. That was the Lions over the Cowboys, and they actually lost. I got that one wrong. But this one is the one I was like, yo, the Bears going to randomly, I literally predicted that the Bears was going to randomly get a sudden burst of great running energy up in them, and that the Patriots, who are known as a notoriously stout run defense, especially as of late, was going to have a bad game, to say the least. And that's exactly what happened. Against a top run defense, all the Bears rushers finished with over 4 yards per carry. Justin Fields led the team in rushing with 82 yards on 14 carries and had a touchdown with that. He also had 13 completions on 21 attempts for 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception through the air. David Montgomery had 15. Khalil Herbert had 12. Those are carries, and both of them went for 62 yards. I thought that was interesting. David Montgomery got a touchdown, though, and Khalil Herbert didn't. The Bears fumbled the ball 5 times in this game and recovered all 5. Very lucky. That could have potentially at the right time been a momentum swinger and might have resulted in a different outcome. But ultimately, the Bears got the win 33-14. Mac Jones was benched for Bailey Zappi early in his first game back from injury. I thought that was a interesting move, to say the least, by Bill Belichick. Honestly, I thought it was a dumb move given the potential damage to Mac Jones' confidence that could do. I mean, even if it was like you sitting him because he's not ready to come back from injury like you thought he was, it's still a bad look that you put him out there and then pulled him so soon thereafter. But he finished on the day before being pulled with 3 completions on 6 attempts for 13 yards, no touchdown, but an interception. And then Zappi, in his replacement, went 14 of 22 for 185 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions of his own, and also lost a fumble. So that compounds the fact that I think that it was a bad move at the time, based off of also the end stat line for Bailey Zappi, who replaced him. Bill Belichick, though, did announce that Mac Jones is going to start their next game as they travel to New Jersey to play the New York Jets. And the Bears are going to be traveling to Dallas to face the Dallas Cowboys. Now it's time to get into my predictions for Week 8. You know I'm right, because I'm coming off of a solid week where I finished on the week 8 of 6. That was 8 and 6. 8 and 6 on the week. So 2 games over 500 in my predictions in Week 7. Week 8, though, here we go. Starting it off, let me announce that the Chiefs and Chargers are both on a bye this week. But getting into it with the predictions, I'm always going to pick the Ravens over whoever, unless I really feel like we do not have a chance, which is rare. But Ravens over Bucks, Thursday Night Football. I like the Jags over the Broncos in London. I think the Falcons get the victory over the Panthers at home. The Cowboys win at home against the Bears. The Lions get the win on the road against the Dolphins. I think the Vikings get a win on the road against the Cardinals. At home against the Cardinals. The Raiders are going to get a win on the road against the Saints. The Jets are going to get a win at home against the Patriots. Eagles get a win at home against the Steelers. Stay undefeated. The Titans get a win on the road against the Texans. The Commanders get a win on the road as well against the Colts. 49ers are another road warrior with a win against the in-state rival Rams. And the Seahawks get a victory at home versus the Giants. They fall for their second loss of the season, I think. The Bills are going to beat the Packers at home on Sunday Night Football. And the Bengals are going to get a victory in Cleveland over the Browns to end the week on Monday Night Football. Those are my predictions for the week. And that's the end of the video, y'all. Thanks for coming out today. I appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like this video, comment, let me know what you thought about the video. Give me your thoughts on this week of action in the NFL. Give your predictions for this upcoming week as well. I love to hear the predictions. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. And also, if you really want to support me, you can subscribe to me on Patreon. Find me there at Trey43. You can also find me on Instagram and on Twitter at the same handle, at Trey43. And this is all. Until next time, thank you very much, y'all. Love you all. See y'all next time on Trey for 3.